Welcome back to the Witchy Web We Weave. I'm Alex.
I'm Alara.
And with Valentine's Day rolling around here on Friday, which is
in the States,
yeah. Well,
I don't know if it's outside the States.
I think even if they don't celebrate it, I think people are well aware, because I know I've heard that even in, I'm not sure if everywhere in England, but I know in some parts of England they'll do like chocolates and stuff around this time.
Yeah, I know there's like
consumerism
there's
spreads.
some kind of like Valentine's Day and like a White Day.
Yeah, in Japan they do that too. Yeah,
where at least they give chocolates and things.
Yeah, because one's for guys gifting, the other one's for girls gifting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're not gonna get into that. We don't know enough.
Tangent.
But yeah, which I think is funny because Valentine's Day and then is on Friday, which is named after Venus. So, hey. Mm-hmm. Which is even funnier because Friday doesn't sound anything like Venus, but if you look at etymology, there mostly starts with V.
Is it also Freya? Is Freya?
I think so. I think that's
Freya?
why we got Friday actually for Freya. Yeah,
Freya.
Mm-hmm. But most other languages have a V in their word. Like in Spanish, it's viernes.
For Venus. Okay.
Yeah, so
that makes sense.
Latin-based languages, Venus. Everything else is probably Freya. Yes. But we were going to talk about, because I've seen some other channels and other channels have made these, but love magic. What do we feel about it? How do we feel? Do we agree or disagree?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like another chat and react, how we were talking about the hexes and curses and stuff last time.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's not as terrible as a curse. I will say I have done love magic before, and not self-love, but I think a lot of it with any other kind of magic is intention.
Yeah.
Because there are herbs and spells that are more based on lust, for sure. Yeah. There's ones that are for like familial love, friend love, romantic love. Like there's different ranges.
All the different types of love that we covered in Tarot Tuesday.
That, and then we were talking about all those love herbs at one time because we just picked a bunch that happened to do with love. And we're like, all the love.
Yeah.
So intention's your first thing, which any kind of magic, spiritual working, I think, has intention definitely as part of it.
Well, that's kind of the basis of any magic that gets done. Exactly.
So if you're okay, so I guess the one of the bigger questions is, can I just make someone fall in love with me?
Oh.
Yes and no. That's unfortunately the answer. Can you just, twirl your thumbs and make someone just drop everything for you? Probably not.
I feel like some of the questions that get asked that people think are the simplest actually end up being the most complicated to unravel, because there's so much, like, there's nothing is black and white when it comes to magic. It is all gray area all the time.
Mm-hmm. So I've seen other videos where, the practitioner is explaining like your intention's really important, because say you're into somebody that's in a committed relationship or that's married, or one of them, they were talking about, the gentleman speaking was a gay man, and he goes, I can do all the love spells in the world on Hugh Jackman that I want. It's probably not gonna work because he is not gay.
I think that was one of the videos of Witch of Wonderlust.
Probably. So again, there is limitations.
Valid.
Yeah, so, he's like, as much magic as I want to do on this man, it's probably not going to go damn near nowhere. Yeah. Because the man is happily married, he has children, and as far as we know, is very not gay.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the things, is you always have to take into account free will. It is a lot of love magic, I feel, is persuasion based. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like, boom, he's going to be your love slave. He won't be able to think of anyone else but you, and, like, drooling over himself, like, to get at you. It's more of a, they'll start thinking of you more, and they'll just, like, why am I thinking of this random person? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like there has to be an underlying something that's already there to work with in order to make something like that more likely to happen. So I do feel like there's an element of free will that goes in with stuff like that.
And there's a lot of free will on stuff, especially when you're doing workings on somebody else versus on yourself. You know, so like there's definitely like you gotta account for the other person being a human and having their own stuff going on. But I guess I don't agree or disagree with people that do it just because I've done it and I can't be a hypocrite, and I didn't do it in any way where this is the other thing people kind of don't like about love magic is you do need to be somewhat specific because you are putting intention out to the universe, and if you're not, the universe might come back with something that you can't handle or that is not exactly what you thought you wanted. So you do want to be, to an extent, specific, but you can't be so specific that the universe just hits a roadblock because it's not going to happen.
And you're specifically talking about when you're doing love magic for when you do not have a partner and you are looking for a partner.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one form of love magic.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm talking about what I know. I've never done anything else. But, well, I think it would work on anything, for the most part. Like if you were looking at, like, say, like friendship love, like, you were, like, you know, that person still kind of has to want to be your friend.
Yeah, so there has to already be some wanting or some underlying something that it would already be
so that kind of
possible
flows together, because, like, say you're new to a town and you're just like, hey, I just want somebody really cool to hang out with that maybe plays the video game I play, so we have something to talk about when we first meet. You know, if you're not more specific than that, that person could, you know, I don't know, be an alcoholic or something, or do something just wildly out of the spectrum of your life situation. I'm just saying, it's an example.
Okay.
So, like, you know, you're new to a town, and I don't know, you play, what's the game right now? What's the thing? I don't know, Pokemon. That's throwing it out there. Okay, so, and you're like, okay, I want to meet other like-minded nerds in my area. Tinder for friends, basically, you know, and you meet a group, and you're like, you're hanging out, it's all great, you know, you're at a Starbucks or something, somewhere public, so you're first meeting and just hanging out, and then, you know, you hang out with one of them later on, and they're like creepy or something. I don't know, like, I can't think of something specific off the top of my head.
If you're not, I think what you're saying is if you're not specific enough, sometimes you will end up getting what you want, but not in the way that you want it. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah,
or yeah, if you're throwing out nets for friendship and you accidentally get somebody interested into you romantically that you're just not about, that you're gonna have to work that to where you cut enough threads to where they're still your friend, but maybe not into you romantically, like. There can be complications is what I'm getting at.
And I guess that's the thing. For me, as far as love magic goes, I actually do, in hindsight, I do a lot of love magic. But I do love magic on myself.
Yeah, self-love magic.
Yeah, I do self-love. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of self-love, self-compassion, yada, yada, yada. I very, very rarely do love magic that involves other people in my life. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, my rules on that are still kind of vague just because I haven't had the necessity to actually sit down and suss out some of my personal ethics when it comes to things like that. My only one that I'm pretty sure about is I don't necessarily agree with doing love magic on someone else, like for someone that wants a partner and they have someone specific in mind, but that person is not available because they are already happily in a relationship with someone else. Mm-hmm. That is one of the established ethical issues that I have that I was like, no, that's really mm-hmm. not okay. Because then you are intentionally trying to mess with someone's free will. Mm-hmm. And that's just not, in my opinion, because this is my opinion, this does not have to be anyone else's. But in my opinion, that's not okay. Mm-hmm. However, considering that I've more recently gotten back into a relationship and now I'm working with a significant other, I really don't foresee there really being a problem with me doing love magic specifically for me and my significant other if it's building on top of what we already have. So things to enhance passion, which really there's no need for that right now. Sorry, that was more information than y'all need to know about me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna rein it in. So as far as doing like significant other love magic, I really don't see a lot of problems with it. For instance, like doing passion spells, if you're already
Communication.
Sometimes it kind of goes along with communication, but like setting boundaries with each other, or trying to promote healthy communication or boundaries and things like that. Or even, I know a lot of ladies or people, not just ladies, but people that whenever they have a significant other, even if things are going really, really well, they'll still do like don't stray type love magic, things like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've heard of like those, and then I think it's slightly different, but I know that there's like the follow me kind of stuff, which I think is more like when you're single.
Yeah, I wouldn't really do a lot of like follow me or don't stray magic.
Sorry.
Love magic with my significant other, just because if you're having to do like don't stray or come back to me or come back crawling love magic, then
yeah, I was gonna say like if I'm in a happy relationship, like we're both doing good and stuff, I wouldn't want to put that into the universe. Like I don't want him straying. Like that means you're already kind of thinking he might be. I feel.
Yeah, that's a trust issue thing. That's not really a. I don't know. I'm all about like magic can be great for maintenance, for continuing and building on the good that's already
and there. I think a lot of people forget that, especially once you're like, oh look, like I've got the person I want, and then you just kind of like relationships in general. Like a lot of people will forget that they need maintenance and upkeep and care and all kinds of stuff.
I want to say one of the like more, I don't really know what to call it, but it's like really mainstream love magic is, you know, make your ex come crawling back to you or something like that. And
that's something that a lot of channels have talked about. Like they get asked that a lot is, can I get my ex back?
I don't like it. I really don't like it. Just because there is a level of degradation that is required in order to have the mindset of have him come crawling back to me. Either degradation of yourself or of the other person, and like none of that is healthy. And I really don't like doing magic involving relationships and other people if it's based on something that is really that unhealthy. Just because I feel like that can do a lot of unintentional damage to you or to someone else. And like, again, this is my own opinion. This is nobody else's opinion. I'm not saying that this has to be your opinion. But my thinking on it is, if someone cheated on you or ran off and left, or they treated you wrong and you are pining after them and like wanting them to come back and like I want him to come crawling, like maybe maybe they are not a healthy person to have in your life.
I was gonna say I feel like that does happen when people are just like, I miss that person in my life or whatever. I feel like it could go the other way though, when the person that was doing the negative in the relationship and the other person decided for their own health to leave.
Oh yeah, and then come back to me. Yeah,
where, you know, like that's another form of like, you know, abusive relationships. Like, I don't want you to leave if you're not going to be mine. I don't want you to be anybody.
And that's another thing with doing that type of love magic on someone that maybe y'all didn't have the healthiest boundaries or the healthiest relationship before in the past. No matter how much magic you put into something, if the original make of it is it's a turd, you can't sit there and polish a turd and make it into a diamond. It's always going to be either a nicer smelling turd or, you know, a prettier, sparkly, glittery, but it's still going to be a turd. Like, that is my own personal thoughts on that.
No, same if I'm going to be honest. And to be honest, like, outside of very few cases, your ex is your ex for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, there's extenuating circumstances, like you were together at the wrong time and you met up later and it worked out, or distance might have happened where you guys, living in different areas, and then all of a sudden y'all are in the same area and it clicks a lot better because you're closer together. And I can see stuff where, like, you broke up because complications, not because the relationship wasn't healthy necessarily.
Yeah.
But those are not as common as just people are unhealthy for each other, to be honest.
Yeah. A lot of times, instead of doing or having the opinion of love magic needs to happen for you and another person that you're in a relationship with, I'm more of the opinion of, so instead of doing love magic specifically for like a relationship for somebody, even especially if it's a negative one, regardless of instead of trying to like draw them back in or make them want you again or make them want you more, I'm more of the opinion of it can be healthier for you to do magic to improve yourself, or to like me, I do a lot of magic that is helping me to get rid of old mindsets or unhealthy mindsets, or I do self-esteem or self-love, self-compassion. Like, most of the magic that I do is for self-improvement or to better myself, if I'm specifically not doing magic for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's a lot healthier for you to use magic to help yourself get yourself to a really good place. And then a lot of times, whenever you're in a really good place, that's when the best relationships can happen for you, especially romantically.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people, they're attracted to
positive vibes.
Yeah. It's one of those you receive what you send out, and types of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess that kind of leads on to one of the last and key love magics that there is, that we've talked about it a little bit, we've kind of skirted around it in general, is one of the biggest love magics that you can do if you're not doing it for your relationship with someone else is self-love magic. Love magic for yourself.
Before we get there, I was gonna hop back into romantic stuff real quick.
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead.
As you had mentioned, to not like put stuff on somebody that's already in a relationship, which I also agree with.
Yeah.
We're not your parents, but I feel like if you start a relationship that way, that's a negative way to start a relationship, gonna be honest.
And that goes back to the whole polishing a turd. Even if they do end up leaving that person and coming to you and y'all are together and having a relationship, there's always going to be that underlying, I don't know, energy to it. Like that's still going to be in the back of everyone's head. It's still going to be a big influencer. And
yeah, the only thing I could suggest, and I wouldn't even really do that because it's a lot of waiting and ifs and not really good energy, but if you really wanted to do something because you're just really into somebody that's already with somebody else, I would try and word it, instead of being so like, I want them now, let them just fail at their relationship. I would do more like, if the circumstances happened where we were both available and wanting, let a relationship happen. If you were still just, this person is the one for me, I'm just gonna wait till I die or they're mine or whatever. Just some people are like that, I'm gonna be honest. But if you really wanted to do that without putting negativity into it, that's the best way I could think to word it. Like, if that person is ever available and interested, let it happen so we just connect or something. That's the best way I could say it. But I was also gonna say, because I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on how I've actually done love magic myself. So I went to our shop, Hearth Wisdom, and I was asking her, because I was single and I'd been in a relationship for quite a while, and I was just kind of like, at the time I was kind of unsure which way I was swinging, if I'm gonna be honest, and I just kind of wanted to know like which way I was gonna go, because I was in college and times. But I went to their store and we were talking, because I made a, not really a mojo bag because it wasn't necessarily that kind of magic, but it was like a sachet magic. It was like bag magic where you keep it on your person until whatever you want manifests. So it's like a more physical attachment magic. But we were looking at herbs, and she's like, you want to, that's kind of going back to when I said you want to be specific, but not to the point where, you know, like, I'm just going to give you a generalization specific, right? Like, I want a guy who has a decent job, doesn't live with his parents, and has a house. Versus, I want John on 5th Street in New York. Like, that's a little too specific, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
same thing, same idea, but very different. So I was talking to her, and she goes, the universe hears, like, that you want a person, but the universe doesn't, and this is again more like an opinion and a system of beliefs, right? Because you might think the universe just happens to know what you're thinking, and that works for you. But she goes, the universe is just gonna find the person that matches these qualities the best. That doesn't necessarily mean, like, her biggest example was, because if you're doing this kind of bag magic, there are herbs that you put in there if you're trying to attract a male or a female. And she asked me, are you gay? Are you straight? Like, what are you? Because she's like, what are you looking for? Because, and she goes, I've seen it where this person finds basically their soulmate, but they're not in the right body.
Oh, they're not in the form of a gender that they're attracted to.
Mm-hmm. So she goes, I've seen a lot of, like, guys find, like, their best friend, and a lot of girls also, but they're not into that sexually, and it doesn't work that way. Because the universe is seeing things on a soul level versus a physical body level. That's kind of how she worded it.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, I don't know. So she gave me herbs that were non-gender specific.
Ah, fair enough.
So it would be either way, because she was like, if you don't want it to be specific, you don't want that also put in the universe. Like, if you're looking for a dude only, like, you know, you like what that entails. You want to do certain herbs, and if you want to feed, like, a lady, you want certain things that do that too. And I was like, well, what if it's somewhere in between? And then she goes, well, then you want this. And then, so you would go, either you do your own research, or you go to a store that, like, she's very knowledgeable, so she knew exactly what to do. My bag was pink, which pink is more romantic than lustful. I will be, you know, some people swap it, but for the most part, most stores and most practitioners will tell you if you're looking for romance and love, it's pink. If you're looking for something a little more spicy, it's red.
Which, doing lustful love magic is mostly like a hot flash. It's like,
yeah,
bam, and it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So,
more of kind of a one-night stand or a couple of one-night stands feeling, and then it's putters out.
mm-hmm.
It's a flash burn.
Yeah, and you could essentially build on that too, though. Like, if you're just looking for something casual and it happens to click, you can also then do, hey, I like this clicking, let's do some more clicking. But I had a bag, it was pink, and then I stuffed it with all kinds of stuff. And then what I did, because I do runes, is I sewed into it, but I used red thread, which I thought was funny, because you were like, I wouldn't have used red, and I was like, why? Because you were, what was it? It was like soul stuff, or?
Red thread is normally like the red thread of fate, or the red string of fate. It's the idea that a red thread can bind two souls together. I think it's
Isn't that where we got the?
No, it's a similar idea, but it's different. The one that I'm referring to, I think, is more of a Eastern culture belief. But I think you're probably also thinking of the Greek version, which is that humanity was born, like, people were originally born with two heads, you know, two sets of arms, two sets of legs, one torso, and something about the gods split them.
Because, they were afraid of,
and divided them up, and that's where you get the concept of soulmates. That there are specific people out there in the world that are made like a jigsaw puzzle to fit one another.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I was talking about is that's where we get sort of why your wedding finger goes on your, well, for a lot of cultures, I don't know if all of them, but a lot of them, your wedding band goes on your third finger on your left hand, because they used to think that finger and that vein was attached directly to your heart. I do not believe that's at all true anymore, but that is where that came from, and people used to tie themselves with threads and stuff before rings became the fashion. So I can see where, yeah, I just used red because I thought it looked cute and kind of Valentine's-y.
I mean, that would be really amazing if, you know, the person that you ended up making the bag in mind for and whoever came in response to all of that ended up being your life partner or your soulmate or whoever.
It'd be nice, yeah, and we're still together.
Yeah, you had a pretty good run out of that sachet.
Yeah. So
Sachet, whatever.
Whatever. But yeah, so that's my experience, and I've never done other types though. So like, I know you can do like love jars, like honey jars. You can do candle burnings and all kinds of other stuff. But I will also mention real quick, since I've thought of this over the past, where I think I might have done something to my ex unintentionally, because this is before, and I think that's why he might have gotten a little too obsessive.
This is news to me, folks.
Yeah, because I kept thinking about it, and I remember I'd you know, people are cute when they're in high school or whatever, they're just like, you write your initials or whatever in a paper or whatever. I did that a lot. And like, looking back over things, like I put a lot into the universe.
Oh, you put a lot of intention into it?
Yeah, I put a lot of just like, because I was I was, you know, we're high schoolers, we had a lot of emotional baggage and crap and stuff. And I put a lot of, I don't want people to leave me, like, ever into that.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of other things that were just, at the time, very unhealthy to want in a relationship, but when you're young and really dumb, you're just like, oh, that's romantic for somebody to, like, just want you, like, terribly, like, with, like, a burning, like, obsession.
Yeah, and honestly, I am also guilty of that in the past with my previous relationship. I did kind of some of that too. Maybe not quite the way that you did, but with the same mindset behind it, which was back before I was practicing. But still, the energy you put out can sometimes,
things that you think you want necessarily aren't what you want.
And the way that when things ended, it was somewhat catastrophic because I think of all of that was put into it along that similar mindset. So yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from. So
I will say, yeah, it's, you know, you don't want your partner to leave unless, you know, it's just not working out for y'all anymore, obviously, because that still sucks at the end of the day. But don't put it so much to that point, because I think I've mentioned this about how I'm a Cancer Gemini, and my Cancer likes being clingy. I have to rein that in. But my Gemini hates other people's clinginess. But I was so, like, adamant that I'm like, and then I was gonna make this work, that they became frighteningly clingy, and it was just overwhelming. And it didn't help that, like, my parents didn't really approve, and I'm like, I'm gonna prove y'all wrong. Like, there was a lot in there.
There's a lot of teenager feelings.
Yeah, so, but, you know, we were together for a while.
Yeah.
So it worked. Was it supposed to? I don't know.
And it probably wasn't the healthiest.
No.
Like,
there was...
For all the time, for the amount of time that I've been with you, there was some of that was probably really great.
It was not super great. But, so those are two examples that I put intention into, knowing what I was doing, and the other one was just...
intention without a lot of forethought.
No.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think of, especially when you're in high school, unless you're into this stuff, you're not really thinking of intention and stuff. And even if you are into this, you don't really realize what it is until later. But yeah, just some quick examples. And then let's hop into self-love.
Yeah, so that's the majority of the love magic that I end up doing for myself. And I do it in a whole bunch of different forms. And I honestly, it's probably the magic that I am the most... one of the magics that I am most consistent on a regular basis, because I do it in a bunch of different ways, but all of it kind of within the same mindset or goal of working on myself, loving myself, having the confidence or the esteem to treat myself the way that I deserve to be treated, not how I at the time would feel like I should be treated, but what I actually should be treated. So in a lot of ways, it's a much more...
it's pretty meditative, I would say.
It can be, yeah. It really can be, because a lot of it...
self-reflection.
A lot of self-reflection, a lot of shadow work. In a lot of ways, and this is something I wouldn't mind making a further video on sometime down the line in the future, but a lot of how I see self-love magic goes very well hand in hand with mental health practices, mental health skills, and mindsets and things like that. So a lot of what I do for my mental health, I also implement it in my self-love magic, which is one of the reasons why I personally feel like I've grown so much, especially within the last year or two. And it's to the point where I've had a handful, like most of the time I don't get random comments from people. I really don't. I'm just, that's not me. But I've gotten like a handful of comments from different people of like, wow, you have grown so much. And they'll actually be able to like lay it out and explain. I was like, oh, well, good. Then my stuff is working. But I feel like a lot of self-love comes, a lot of self-love magic adheres really well to good mental health and mental hygiene practices. And that can be a really good way to put good energy out or put love energy out in a way that can be really beneficial. First off, for you, like for me, myself, because this is what I'm doing for myself to show that I am worthy and deserving of feelings and things like that. But it can also be really good for love magic in general, because once you love yourself, or you have gotten to a point where you can treat yourself like a human being, or you can see value in beautiful things in yourself that you never used to be able to before, then you have a much greater capacity to share love with other people, with friends, with family, with actual loved ones, like significant others.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of self-love magic can go very well, and it puts in the early work for being able to do really significant love magic with your significant other once you find a significant other. Because I just feel like it's creating a good, healthy love environment overall.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah, because I know that a lot of people, like, and I don't like the quote because I've seen enough where you just aren't in a good spot where the quote's something like, you can't really love others so you love yourself.
Oh, kind of like RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell you want to love somebody else?
Yeah, that's another way to say it. But, and I can see where that comes from, because, like, if you're just, like, put yourself down and, like, all this stuff, like, who wants to really be around that? But I've known enough people that they needed the positivity of someone else.
And that
helps them.
That's the thing. And
so I can see, like, where this kind of adheres to, like the first one without being so stringent. It's like, you should love yourself, you need to work on yourself. That doesn't exclude or negate that you can also be in a relationship and be healthy.
Well, it's also the fact that in some ways I view self-love magic kind of like I'm doing significant other love magic, except I'm treating myself as the significant other. So in a lot of ways, the self-love magic that I sometimes do for myself is talking to myself, either or working magic in the mindset or in the energy of my significant other, or in the mindset or energy of my best friend, someone that I love and trust, to be able to tell me when I'm being a dumbass or something like that.
I feel it though.
But there is, in a lot of ways, think of the person that you love most in the world. A lot of times, even if they're the kind of person that is going to tell you you're a dumbass and tell you to straighten your shit out, in a lot of ways, there's still a lot of loving capacity and a lot of warmth that can come even in that kind of mindset. So a lot of times, I would treat my self-love magic almost like I was a significant other. And that it's kind of it's an abstract way of looking at it because
I've
it requires some mental gymnastics. But once I kind of got that concept in my head, I started seeing a lot of really significant response from my own mind and my own mindsets, my own emotions, and how I was handling things. Because I'll be honest, I'm a stubborn human being. I am an incredibly stubborn human being. And once I lock down, it's very hard. I get very set in my ways, and I do a lot of backsliding. It's hard for me to make progression a lot of times. So when I started looking at self-love magic, and when I really needed it, in that mindset of treating myself like I was the significant other, then I was really able to kind of turn everything on its head and actually start to move forward in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've heard of something really similar to that where, because she used to be a yoga teacher, she shows a lot of like positivity quotes, and sometimes I'm just like, but
I know. I'm gonna invade your personal space for a second. You got mad.
Okay, I was like, what? But one of the things I think she shared, might have written or whatever I read online somewhere, was talk to yourself how you talk to that person, basically. And that's why I was like, it sounds a lot like that.
Yeah, a lot of the mantras that I do, on top of everything else that I do, it has very much that mindset, and that's kind of the lens of which all of the talking and communication happens. Is I need to stop talking to myself the way that I normally talk to myself, because it's downright ugly. And if I can't say it aloud, then I shouldn't be saying it at all.
That's kind of like the theory. It's like when you say that out loud to like your best friend or like your romantic partner or your parent or whatever, and if you're like, no, then it's like,
Yeah, but that's the thing. Try to think of the person that you love most, like that you have the most tender feelings for in this world. And talk to yourself either the way that you would talk to them or the way that they would talk to you. And I can guarantee that nothing hateful is going to come out of that. Like, nothing mean would come from that.
or it shouldn't.
Or it shouldn't. And most of the time, even if you're coming from that mindset and you need to be firm with yourself and you need to be, you need to have some harsh honesty, even that honesty, even if it's harsh or blunt, can still be said with love, to where you are not degrading yourself or making yourself feel small and insignificant.
Another thing that kind of going along with this too. Sorry, I'm having skin. Another thing that she does say a lot, because this yoga teacher has been, when I used to go to her classes, she would tell us like I had a lot of mental health issues growing up. In college, it got really bad. Like I gained a lot of weight, and then I dropped a lot of weight. Like I had eating disorders, and she talked about that stuff. And one of the things she shares a lot, like it's happened a lot of times repetitively, is the person you talk to the most is you. So like, be careful what you say, because you are the person you spend the most time with.
That's true.
So to go along hand in hand with how would you talk to this person you love, kind of like also remember that you are your keeper. You are like the person
That's
you are
true.
around the most.
And in a grand sense of everything, I do view words as some of the most powerful magic that you can cast, even unintentionally.
That's why written word wasn't written for a long time.
Yeah, but it is my personal opinion that verbal words, speech, is one of the most powerful magic, just in and of itself, just by the very nature of it. We are literally taking something abstract and we are making it concrete. We are speaking it and breathing it into life in a way that we can reach out and interact with other people, other things around us. And that in itself, to me, makes speech magical. So a lot of what we say to ourselves and what we say to others can be very deeply a part of self-love magic, love magic, all of it. But do you have anything else to say? If not, that may be a good place to end it.
That's probably a good spot to say toodaloo.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want, we can definitely do another video on that. Like if you want to talk about like what you do, practices, things.
I wouldn't mind doing it some point in the future.
Alright,
I think it could be helpful for other people. At least it was a really big help for me. So anything and everything that can be beneficial to someone in that way, I'm always on board for.
All right. Well, with that note, stay tuned for maybe that happening, and we will catch you later.
Thanks for listening. Many blessings.
Bye.